Hello and welcome back to the Rapport with the Sailing podcast. I'm your host, Holden Mitty. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining me again if you're a returning listener. I truly appreciate you taking the time and listening to what I have to say. I hope that whatever I do say inspires you to seek more joy in your day and your life. And I hope that whatever I say, I hope that it improves the relationships that you have in your life. I know that it's therapeutic for me to do this podcast, which is my selfish motive for doing this podcast. But I think that that's essential for us to come together as a community and make positive change so that we live happier lives. That's the goal of this podcast, is to inspire joy. Could you please subscribe to the channel? I really want to reach more people. I really want the conversation of joy and how to achieve it to reach as many people as possible. Subscribing to this channel and sharing these videos will definitely do that. Liking this video will boost the algorithm so that I'm able to reach people who don't know me now. That would be great. And for your own benefit, if you just click the notification bell and make sure that you are notified every time I come out with new content, that will keep you ahead of the curve, and it will keep this podcast moving like the locomotive that it is, or that I hope it turns into. We're a slow-moving steam engine right now, but I hope to get up to speed soon. I'm going to keep consistent with this, and I hope it reaches everybody who needs to hear these messages. So thank you for doing all that. Let's get right into it. I want to talk today about the value of time. This has been something that I've been hyper aware of since the moment my son was born. And I constantly ask myself the question, what is my time worth? Because of that event. I'll quickly share. I've written songs about this. If you know me, I speak endlessly of this experience and how it's changed my life. The moment my son was born, for me personally, and I know that most parents that I speak with, it resonates with them as well, that the moment my son was born, time stood still. It completely stopped. And I watched the doctors and nurses care for him and check on him. And the moment that they handed him to me, I felt time in a way that I never had felt it before. I knew that it wasn't moving. It gave me an opportunity to just drink this miracle in, and all my senses were heightened, and I was gifted the honor or the opportunity to just completely take a mental photograph of that moment. But it came at a price, because shortly after I had him in my arms and I was just admiring him, I could feel time accelerate, because I had become aware of time, the time that I had got to have with him without it moving. It started to accelerate in a way that I had never experienced before. And to be quite honest, it's been moving at a faster and faster pace ever since then. I think because I am now conscious that I have no idea how much time I have left on this earth, and that I, without a doubt, want to spend every single moment in joy with him, because in my last podcast, like I was talking about, he is one of the greatest sources of joy for me. So I became extremely aware of how precious every moment is. And it's applied to all my passions in life. And it makes my voice shaky, and I can feel it in my breath when I think about how he's affected the value of my time. And it begs all these questions that I have in my notes of things that I'd like to inspire you to think about. I mean, when I think about it, it's like, well, how if time is a currency, I usually think of it that way. How much would you have to give me for my time, to have time with me, away from my son, away from my joy? And that's how I'd like you to look at it. Whatever it is that brings you joy in your life, you first have to identify that. And then you have to think, well, how much, if there was a dollar value, how much would you have to give me to take me away from that, to do something else? And I mean, outside of work and responsibilities of needing to pay bills and keep everybody fed, what is it? What value do you have on that? And I think things that give you a better scope of what adds value or what detracts value from that time are inspired by some of these questions. What do you spend your time doing? I love music, but since having him, I still spend time doing it. I think setting the example for him to pursue a passion and not become codependent on a person is extremely important. But I'm an obsessive personality, so I could sit here for 10 hours and play bass until I have no fingertips. But if I hear him laughing, or if he has a question for me, or if he needs me, wherever he is on the planet, I will choose him in that joy. I will choose to spend my time with and for that above all else. He is, the joy that he inspires is something that I crave, and it adds incredible value to my time. So something you can ask yourself is, what do I spend my time doing? Because it will really highlight what priorities you have in your life. What do I spend my time doing? If you answer that question and there are things that do not add value to your life, that's something to reassess, because the end goal here is to spend your precious moments in joy. Which leads me to my next point is, who do you spend your time with? Do these people add value to your time, or do they cause you suffering and stress? It's not just the time that you spend with that person, it's the feeling that lingers afterwards. Do these people leave me in a state of joy or in a state of suffering? Or do they inspire me to want to make change? All these things they're valuable in their own way, but they're questions that need to be asked, and they're questions that need to be answered if you are in a pursuit of living in more joy, or awareness that joy is a choice, suffering is a choice, joy is a choice. So how am I spending my time? Who am I spending my time with? These are questions I ask myself, and how I prioritize what I spend my time on. And another question is, what time period am I living in? Am I living in the past? Am I living now, or am I living in the future? Living in the past, we all know, is a detriment to how we feel about ourselves now. Learning lessons, making positive, logical change that influences our now moment, that influence our choices now, incredible value. But something that I still work on, definitely, as I've expressed in earlier podcasts, that my childhood is so stained with such violence and toxicity. Even my early 20s into my 30s, there's a lot of regret I can live in, and there's a lot of regret that I do live in that I still try to process and get through. What is that doing for my moment? Is it adding value to the time I have now? Is it paying tribute to the joy or to the suffering? I want to live in joy, so something that I have to actually and actively pursue is the practice of letting go of regret, and that requires forgiving myself, which is, man, it's hard. It's tough. It's probably one of the most difficult things that I've ever attempted in my life, is to forgive myself. Like I said, most of my day and my time is fighting that demon, trying to avoid that feeling. And I think the work that I'm doing what I can, and that it's a process, and then I'll have to spend a lot of my life tackling that demon. But something that I'm conscious of is that I don't want to live in that feeling, because ultimately I do want joy. Because I have to ask myself, who am I living my life for? Am I living my life for me, or am I living my life to try to validate myself or my feelings through attempting to hold somebody else accountable for how I feel? Nobody is responsible for how you feel or your actions or your choices but you. There are circumstances you have to live through, and you have to learn to adapt and move on. You can't live in the past, and that's something that I have to constantly remind myself, and it's something that I would really like to put out there for whoever's listening or watching right now, whoever needs to hear that. I think it's super important. You need to ask yourself, who am I living my life for? That will give you a scope of what your time's worth, because if you're constantly grinding issues that you've had in the past, that you're not growing, you're living in darkness, and whatever grows needs light. So you need to allow yourself to live in light. So questions that I ask myself to inspire myself to think more about positive change and living in joy is, can I imagine myself as someone else? Not an idol, but can I imagine myself differently? Like, can I imagine myself happy? What does that person look like, and how do they spend their time? Who surrounds them? What daily practices does that person perform? And how do they feel about themselves? How do they treat themselves? Which comes right down to what a lot of people preach a whole lot, is self-love. And man, it is easier said than done to love yourself, because you know all your flaws. You know all the ugly, ugly things inside yourself. You can't lie to yourself. Whatever ugly thoughts you have, whatever motives you have within yourself, if you're a good actor, oh, you can get away with a whole lot as far as how other people see you, unless they're a really great judge of character. But a great actor can get away with a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, man, you can't avoid a reflection. You can't walk through life very long without seeing a reflection. You are chained to yourself. So you got to think about, do I want to be chained to this person? And I want to be chained with somebody with a great outlook on life, with a great sense of humor, and the ability to adapt. That's who I want to be chained to. That would be a wonderful person to spend my life with. And in a later podcast, that's kind of inspires me. What kind of partner you choose? I'm so lucky. I'm single, but I'm so lucky that I have a child who I just adore. And man, I just love to spend my time with him. I cannot wait to pick him up from school today. So ask yourself, what small changes can I make that will compound into that desired life, so that the moments I spend, I'm giving myself back that value, like the exchange of my energy and my time. How do I make that worth it to me, so that I don't live with regret? Because it's small changes. Like going cold turkey for a lot of people does not work. Usually if you start that diet on the first of the year, a few weeks in, you're cheating. And you want to make small changes. You want to give yourself the chance. That's a big thing that I've learned in my own experience. And you just have to think about all these things and how you have the power. You're the most powerful person in your life. How can I make change so that I can live in joy? And at the end of the day, know that I'm worth it. Self-worth is priceless. 'Cause once you feel and know your worth, then it starts to dictate how you put yourself out in the world. And I know this because it's something that I'm working on right now actively. And I'm not perfect, but I do know one thing that I do know is that I'm actively pursuing that. And it's because I have this example of pure joy right in front of me after school until bedtime, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I have him Friday, Saturday until bedtime on Sunday. So I hope that you take the time and give yourself the opportunity to pursue joy and put down that cross, or allow somebody or something to help you carry it. So that's where I'm going to end this podcast. I think that's enough from me. I just want to announce that I have some really exciting guests coming up. It's not just going to be the talking head. I have Bill Funk. What a great name, right? The director of Felix Family Villages International. I'm going to be speaking with him about his work. I'm not even going to attempt to explain how cool his work is and how inspiring he is. He's since I was a teenager, one of the most inspiring pastors that I've ever met. I'm so excited to talk with him. I've also got Darren Youngstrom, lead pastor at the church that I attend now at New Vintage in Santa Rosa, California. We have some really cool stuff to talk about. I'm really excited to get with him. He's hilarious. And I've got Mike Pinky, who is a podcast host of Real, Raw, and Flawed. This dude is great. I joined a Connect group through Zoe Church in LA, and the Lord has blessed me with an incredible friend when it comes to Michael. He's amazing, and I can't wait to share these conversations with you guys. With that being said, have a great day, a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.